Welcome to the What If podcast. We're sharing an ever-growing collection of stories from the Belmont entrepreneur community to inspire you to start and keep going. I'm your host, Elizabeth Gortmaker. Here we go. Hello. This week's guest is Sam Walker, founder of Walker Brothers. He studied music business here at Belmont University and graduated in 2014. In 2019, he and his brother launched Walker Brothers, specializing in good-for-your-gut beverages made with organic ingredients. They've seen a rapid growth in the last 3 years, and I'm so excited to share their story. So let's dive right in. All right. Hey, Sam, it's great to see you. How are you?
I am good. Thanks for having me. Sorry for the slight technical difficulties.
You're all good. Okay, so for those who don't know, what is kombucha?
Kombucha is a fermented tea beverage and is brewed with a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. It's going to be very rich.
That sounds gross.
It does sound gross. It looks kind of gross too. The acronym is SCOBY. But yeah, it's fermented tea. The fermentable is cane sugar. We use organic cane sugar, but kombucha is known as a functional beverage, meaning it has a lot of beneficial health properties, including healthy acids and bacteria and probiotics that ease digestion.
Is this something you grew up making or drinking?
The first time I had kombucha was probably about 12 years ago, maybe a little longer. My aunt introduced my brother and I to kombucha, and she would homebrew it, and she would make this really good ginger raspberry flavor. And every time we had family reunions or went to their house in Connecticut, she would share this beverage with us.
Nice. So you guys started Walker Brothers 2019, is that right?
That's correct. October of 2019. Yep.
What was the what if moment? What were you guys thinking when you said, you know what, let's just kind of can some kombucha and sell it?
So actually, the original idea for the business, my background before launching this company was in alcohol distribution, specifically in craft beer. And then I was working in sales in craft breweries before the distributor aspect. So I would be out at a lot of events and meetings, and they were always so beer oriented. And my brother and I really loved that beer was a medium that brought people together to share a beverage, which generally led to very vulnerable and fun conversations. But at the end of the night, it was kind of hard on the gut, especially as I got older. So Luke and I started to homebrew kombucha at our house in East Nashville. And when Luke moved from Connecticut to Nashville, he actually stopped at our aunt's place and grabbed the symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, the SCOBY, and brought it here to start homebrewing kombucha because he deals with a lot of acid reflux issues. So that's why he started homebrewing. And the idea was that we would go out and be at a beer event and have a couple of beers and then come home and drink kombucha to kind of ease our gut before going to sleep. So it was like a kombucha nightcap to help with digestion of the beer that we had been consuming at these events. And from there, we thought, well, what if we could make a sessionable, lower ABV alcoholic beverage that was gluten-free and still had the functional properties of non-alcoholic kombucha. So that was kind of the light bulb moment, was like, could we make this a 4 to 5% alcoholic beverage and increase the alcohol content that's generally in kombucha? For non-alcoholic kombucha, usually there's about 0.5% of alcohol. So we just were trying to bring that up a little bit to have a better for you alcoholic beverage that still had some functional health benefits to it and was a lot easier on the gut.
Yeah. Okay, so big picture, y'all kind of started doing this at your own house for yourself. 2019 rolls around, you start to expand it. Here we are 3 years later. Where are you guys sold? What's your distribution like? How far is your reach today?
Yeah, so we are currently distributed in almost 8 states. We'll be in 8 states in June. We're about to launch in Virginia in June. But currently our distribution footprint is mostly in the Southeast. Tennessee is where we do the majority of our business, but then we also distribute product to North and South Carolina and to Georgia. And then we also send product to Philly and New York City and Massachusetts.
Yeah. How much are you selling?
Quite a lot of kombucha. So a case of kombucha is 24 cans, and last year we sold approximately 16,000 cases. This year we should be ideally closer to 30,000. So that's a lot of kombucha.
It's a it's a lot of kombucha. You guys have grown so fast. I mean, you really can't go anywhere in Nashville without seeing the Walker Brothers cans. And I love it, like, because it's so good for you, it's so yummy, and people really love the product. It feels like there was this huge need in the market for a more accessible kombucha. But I mean, seriously, for those listening that live in Nashville, you can find this everywhere. And I'm excited to see where you guys grow in the coming years.
Yeah, it was interesting because I think the Nashville community has really had our back, and retailers have been really willing to work with us. And I think that's just because we came in at the opportune moment. There was a ton of white space. No one was producing alcoholic kombucha except for a few companies on the West Coast. So that was the main white space. But in Nashville, there wasn't any scaled purveyor of non-alcoholic kombucha either. So it was just a timely launch, I'd say. And honestly, I think COVID and quarantine kind of helped us out because people were trying to boost their immune systems. And otherwise, people were maybe having an extra drink because of the stress of COVID. So
Yes.
I think that was beneficial for us for sure, as strange as that sounds.
So let's go back to your story. You graduated from Belmont in 2014 with a music business degree. And I'm just curious, tell me a little bit about those 5 years post graduation before Walker Brothers really, you started that. What did those 5 years look like? And, how does the music business degree relate to what you're doing today? How did it help you? Because I know it's all connected in some way, but just tell us a little bit about your story post graduation leading up to starting this company.
Yeah, it was a very dynamic chapter of life for sure. So after graduating, I knew I didn't want to go the corporate route, if that makes sense. So I just started exploring a lot of different avenues. At the time, I was playing a lot of gigs in a band called the Aqueducts, which is a Belmont-based band as well.
Yes,
Um,
love the aqueducts.
yeah, so I was on
Yeah.
the road with them generally like Thursday through Sunday, and we just had to supplement our incomes because we weren't really making any money from that. So I remember the year after graduating, I had 7 jobs that year, and I would start something and it would just be soul sucking, and so I would leave and then jump to something else. So I remember I worked at a restaurant, J. Christopher's. I was a waiter over there. I worked at Bridgestone Arena for a little bit, doing resets before concerts. But they wanted me to work overnight shifts, and I just couldn't do that. I worked for a food startup, which was really awesome, called Fit Food Revolution, but they went under. So I was just kind of bouncing around, and whenever I thought I found something I liked, it just didn't work out. So that first year was really tough. And then I started my craft beer career at the filling station on 12th South. And I just started working there as a bartender because I didn't really know what else to
Cool.
do.
That's a
And
great spot.
yeah, it is a
Yeah.
great spot. So that's where I started learning a lot about the beverage industry. And at the time, I was also just reaching out to local entrepreneurs here in Nashville to try to get sit downs with them so I could just quiz them and ask them questions of like, how did you start something? Like, I'm very confused. I'm just bumping around. I don't exactly know what I want to do, but I know I want to start something. So I was just kind of asking a lot of questions and trying to get a lot of experience for smaller independently owned businesses. So that's kind of what I was doing when I wasn't playing music.
Yeah, it's like two things really stand out to me in the music industry. In the music industry, it's all about relationships. You have to be so connected. Um, all of it is who you know and connecting with people. And then the hustle, like people that work hard in the music industry, especially musicians, touring musicians, like what you were doing, you're just constantly going. It is such a tough work ethic. And so, it's like in some ways, you're graduating 2014. I bet you would have never expected you would be making kombucha 5 years later. Uh, Probably would have been really hard to envision that future. But yet, everything you did in those 5 years, the good, the bad, and the ugly, really prepared you for everything that you're handling today. Would you
Yeah,
say that's the case?
yeah, definitely. And I think music. Well, you nailed it. It's just a hustle, but it's a creative hustle, and I think that's what was so appealing to me was just the creative outlet the music is, and this social aspect of entertaining people, but at the same time having the internal social network of your band. And I mean, a band is a startup. It's exactly the same thing. So I think taking the creativity. That I was experiencing in the music industry, and also the community. And my goal was like, how can I? Because I was burning myself out playing music. I just wasn't getting enough sleep. It was just a hard lifestyle. And I was like, what else? What other mediums? What other industries can connect people around a creative outlet? Um, and for me, I found craft beer to be that thing. And this is when the craft beer movement just started exploding. In the United States, again, it was kind of like the renaissance of craft beer, is when I fell into it. This would have been 2015, especially the renaissance of craft beer in the Southeast. And I just figured out that craft beer was this medium that brought people together, uh, and built community around music, the arts, and sustainable practices. Um, and that's pretty much all the things that uh, that I was looking for. So craft beer seemed to be the hub, and all the spokes were there. But yeah, I do think that Belmont and music business, it got me to think outside of the box. Um, and yeah, my education and time at Belmont and time playing music got me to be okay with a lifestyle that was a lot of hustle for a lot of low income. But it was good. I wasn't afraid to ask questions or to scrape by, um, because I lived it. So I think that was super beneficial, and I think without studying music and going down that path, I definitely wouldn't have been here right now for sure.
Yeah, and then the work you did in the beverage industry. I always tell people sometimes like young entrepreneurs have a really great idea, but it's in an industry that's totally new to them. They have no experience in it. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just go get a job and start working in that space. Even like if you want to start a restaurant or a fast dining experience, go work at Panera for a while. That's one thing we talk about sometimes is like go learn from the best, go learn from people who are doing it really well, and then make it better. Then put your own touch on that and go do it your own way. So I love that you spent some time doing that, and that really kind of propelled you when you guys did launch Walker Brothers. You kind of knew what to do with it at that point. Tell us a little bit about your manufacturing because you're not making this at your house anymore, right?
No, yeah, we have a brewery over on Donaldson Pike, and we're about to move to a much larger facility over on Brick Church, which is in Northeast Nashville. So the new brewery is going to be it's 20,000 square feet. The build out's happening right now. 18,000 square feet of the 20,000 is going to be production, and then we're going to have a 2,000 square foot tap room in there as well, which we're really excited about because other than farmers markets, we really haven't had much direct connection with our consumer. Um, other than farmers markets and events. And I think the main reason for that is COVID, but the other reason for that is not having a tap room where we can host people and where they can experience connection and brand immersion for what we're really trying to build. So our new facility will be able to do roughly 280,000 cases. So at the end of this year, if we hit 30, I mean that's that's the
You're
future
ready.
plan. We got a lot of growth to do. But yeah, we're about to complete a $2.5 million capital raise. Most of that is going into this build out and hiring a larger sales force. But yeah, we're really diving into the deep end and pretty excited about it.
For sure. Have you guys raised money yet, or have you bootstrapped up to this point?
We did another raise last year for $750,000, but that was all angel investors and mostly friends and family or people within our personal networks. For myself and my brother and our business partners, John and Caroline Howard. So this raise is, I see it as kind of the first big raise where we're not bringing in any VC capital. It's still all angels, but it is a wider spread and more disconnected from our personal networks. So it feels like there's a lot more at stake.
Sure.
And it's been a slower process for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot more involved.
Yeah, but big growth up ahead.
Yeah, big
Awesome.
time.
Well, it's in the name. And you've also referenced Luke. This is a brother business. It's Walker Brothers. How does that work? Talk to me about the dynamics, the challenges, the benefits. What is it like working day to day with your brother?
It's great. I mean, I think it's really um, created new depth in our relationship from a lot of different perspectives. Initially, it was really hard launching a business with my brother, and I think any sibling owned company would probably say that, or husband and wife owned company would say that. But when we first launched, we were living together and launching a business, and it's just there wasn't any space from each other. And then when we did launch and sold our first can of kombucha in October of 2019, it was hard to not step on each other's toes because it was just us two and one other employee, and that's it. So everyone was doing every single job, and there wasn't any sectors or really defined roles. So I think that made it really easy to step on each other's toes because of a lack of space, and there was no delegation. Um, so it's been really nice over the past 2.5 years defining our roles and defining our spaces. For instance, I lead the sales team and anything that's like revenue producing, and then Luke leads the production team, product development, and like innovation. And we kind of meet in the middle because we do need a really strong connection between front end and back end, and really strong communication. So now we're operating more as a tandem instead of uh, a unicycle where we're both on the unicycle. So it's been nice being on a tandem bike now for a solid chapter, after a pretty crowded chapter. But I think we're getting to know each other and trust each other in new ways, which is exciting. Um, so I just think it makes our relationship as siblings more multidimensional,
Yeah,
which I'm super grateful for.
that's awesome. That's really sweet. What was the process of kind of going from that unicycle to defining out different roles? Did you have help or advisors in that? Did it just naturally become clear based on your individual strengths and interests? Or was there a challenge in that with letting certain things go and trusting your partner to do their part?
I think it was a little bit of all of that. There's definitely the trust element involved in any type of delegation, um, where it's like, this is your space to own, this is my space to own. And then we educate each other and communicate on those two spaces to build something that's beautiful and efficient and really functional. Um, but at the same time, going in, we knew what our defined spaces would be. We just didn't have the help uh, we didn't have the help or the time to be in those spaces independently. We had to assist each other in literally every single process because there was no one else to help us. Um, so I think that was the hardest part is like, oh, we're really undermanned here for what we're trying to pull off. And we didn't really know that going in. There is a lot of learning to be done with scaling into larger brew vessels and the equipments and the systems and processes that come with that. And we were scaling a living organism. I mean, kombucha is a living beverage. So you can't just make more, you have to scale the organism and then you can produce more. So there is a lot involved to handle that growth and to be patient. But yeah, when we first started, Luke and I would both be in the back brewing and packaging and with our first employee at the time, Vanessa, who was great. She was such a hustler. But it would just be the three of us, and we're literally doing everything. And then if I could get out the door that day, I would try to go sell and open accounts, as with Luke. But we're really leaning into our distributor partners to help us with the sales process, since everything we were doing was kind of back of house, because we were trying to create systems and processes that didn't exist on equipment we didn't really know how to use optimally. So yeah,
Goodness.
it was wild.
I'm sure. And you guys have just like ramped up so quickly. Looking back over the last 3 years, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently, or anything you kind of, I don't want to say like regret, but anything that you think, man, if we had turned right instead of left, like what would it be? Or do you feel like this just was the natural path and you're just along for the ride?
Uh, well, I think Luke and I are both really good at pivoting, and I think all entrepreneurs, that's something you have to be good at because your plan is never going to work. And I think the real thing that we learned launching this business, and then 3 months later, what COVID hits, is what we literally had to pivot on everything and have a lot of faith and give up all control. And that was something else, to just give up control and be like, we just got to show up and keep doing what we can do every single day. But it's like, we can't think about tomorrow. We need to think about right now. Cause it's like, it's do or die, like, and that's how intense it did feel. I think we were just operating under a lot of stress, getting the business off the ground and then being like, oh, is this whole thing going to implode because of, everything that's happening in the world? So I think that was pretty scary. Can you remind me of the second half of your question?
Oh, I don't know. Just thinking the last 3 years, was it,
Yes. Okay.
how much do you feel like you're in the driver's seat, and how much do you feel like as an entrepreneur, you're just seeing what's happening?
I think we're just starting to really take the wheel. But getting a company scaled to where we are right now required a lot of just showing up and pivoting and doing the dirty work. And then we'd hit a dead end, and you have to figure out another route. And then you get to a spot, which I think we're just getting to, uh, where you can implement more strategy. You can start looking to the future and having more of a long-term vision instead of your vision being only quarterly or only daily. So now we're making a plan for like the next 5 years, because we don't feel like this thing's about. It feels safe for the first time, in terms of the revenue that we're bringing in, and in terms of the receptivity that we've been seeing, and in terms of our systems and processes and ingredients and sourcing and our recipes, and most importantly, our team. So I think it's nice to feel that safety net. It takes off a ton of stress, and then instead of being reactive, which I think as an entrepreneur it's super easy to be reactive, which you need, but at the same time it's very stressful to just operate in a reactive way where you have to pivot every other second, and you're operating under a ton of stress. So I think right now we're starting to take the wheel, and we have a little more say, and we're taking a little more ownership of being like, this is our business. The business doesn't run us. Where for the past couple of years, it feels like the business, we've just been along for the ride, and you have a dog that's way too big on a leash that you can't control it, and it's just pulling you along, and you kind of have no say. And now it seems like, we have a chihuahua on the leash. The dog is shrinking. So that's been a really
Yes.
nice feeling, to just feel more settled and grounded in what we have built.
Hmm.
Um, and now we're asking the question, okay, well, we have this baseline. What do we really want this to be?
Yeah. What do you want it to be? Where do you want to go in 5 years?
That is a good question. The simple answer right now is we want to be in this facility, and in 5 years, we hope to have this facility totally maxed out and to hit our capacity. The short term goal that I'm most excited about is getting this tap room opened, because um, I mean, our mantra is a family culture, and that's something we're always trying to build internally, but we're also trying to build that externally. And we really haven't been able to share that because we don't have our own space. So I'm really looking forward to creating a space that caters to our core values of just bringing people together over better for you beverages, and uh, in a really sustainable way, in creating a place where people can connect. And if you create a beautiful space where people can connect, you have no idea where those conversations that you are hosting can lead those people. So I'm really excited for that aspect of the business, and just more connection with the consumer. Um, and then, yeah, I think in 5 years we're hoping to be in, probably another 10 states. And yeah, have this brew house be fully scaled into our new facility, and also have more of an innovation series. So start experimenting more with potentially different mediums outside of kombucha. Um, I won't go into that, but yeah, I think we
I'm so
named
curious.
our company is Walker Brothers Beverage Chaos, so we do have ideas for other
Clever.
beverages. So
Yes.
we're excited to dive more into innovation series and really see uh, where creative beverage innovation takes us.
Well, I saw your recent launch of what was it? Was it a wine beverage in
Yeah,
partnership
yeah, yeah.
with
So we've been
Barrington?
doing in the beer industry, uh, barrel aged wild sour beers, or
Uh-huh.
barrel aged stouts are uh,
Super good.
they're amazing, and they're
Mhm.
just super creative, and it's becoming a bigger space in craft beer. So we wanted to play in that space as well. So we have been barrel aging our kombucha. The first release we did was aged in a Tennessee whiskey barrel, which was fantastic, and we used chai tea in there, and then rested it on peaches from the peach truck, and it kind of drank like a natural wine meets a sour beer. And then the most recent barrel age release, we used an Arrington Vineyards red wine barrel, and we aged our high gravity kombucha in there, and then re-fermented it on Tennessee grown Chambourcin grapes. So it's kind of like this wild sour beer meets a natural wine. So that's kind of the new space that we are delving into, and we're definitely excited to expand that series. That's something that we're really going to lean into when we do have a tap room. We're going to definitely expand that.
Yeah, I love your flavors. Just with the kombucha, that blueberry jasmine is so
Yeah,
good. It's so tasty. Tell me a
that's our
little bit
best
about
seller.
Oh, well, there you go. Tell me a little bit about the process for developing your different flavors. I mean, they're all so creative, and everything you just said about the wine and the barrel age, I'm like, this is brilliant. How do you guys come up with this and figure these recipes out?
I think we're really looking um, to craft beer and what worked in that space when beer was just getting started. So the company we always refer to as Sierra Nevada, and they just did an amazing job creating a product in the United States, which was arguably, one of the first craft beers, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And at the time, everyone thought it tasted pretty bad because everyone was drinking domestic beer. that wasn't craft oriented or artisanal using, uh, top shelf ingredients. So we were like, how can we do something like that, but in the kombucha space? Because there's really not much competition, and everyone who is in this space is trying to take over the world, more or less. And we just want to do a deep dive and be more of like a regional brewery, and then focus on um, our processes and our ingredients and experimentation. So what we're trying to do with our kombucha is to always accent the tea instead of cover it up with flavors. So kombucha is fermented tea, but the tea itself has um, a flavor profile to it. And instead of just burying that in fruit or herbs, we want to accentuate that with everything that we choose to flavor our kombucha with. So what this means is for us using less ingredients and then really using a small amount so that we're more accentuating and creating a delicate flavor profile instead of a flavor profile that dominates the palate. We want it to play on your palate, where you can pick out the green tea and how that expresses itself, where you can pick out the blueberries. Maybe it tastes like blueberry jam, and we want the consumer to be able to play that game with us. My brother and I, that's one of our favorite things to do. Whenever we taste anything, we try to pick out tasting notes. Um, and that tasting note is always brings up some other nostalgic experience we've had in the past. So if we're tasting something with lime, maybe the lime kind of gives off some flavors of coconut. And then that gets us going down this whole different channel on coconuts. And so I think that's my long-winded answer. But our mission is to accentuate the tea so you can actually taste the tea with a very delicate, nuanced flavor profile, working in the constraint of only flavoring with 1 to 4 ingredients. So for blueberry jasmine, all we're using in there is organic blueberries, and then we do a second cold steep addition of jasmine tea, and that's pretty much all that's in there. So really, really simple. And we think that that's nice because it's complex enough uh, to showcase literally every aspect of the beverage. And at the same time, it's simple enough for the consumer to understand without being confused about what's in it, which is nice from a health perspective. But it's also nice because if you're putting, it's easy to confuse the consumer, and we never want to do that. So we like to work with constraints both for ourselves, but also so we can be a beverage that's easy to understand and a beverage where you can pick out every single ingredient when you taste it.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in the room when you and your brother are picking out tasting notes. Like this,
Yeah.
I taste the effervescence of juniper bush or
Yeah,
whatever.
there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, he goes in a little deeper on it than I do. But I
I'm
mean,
sure it's awesome.
there's been all sorts of strange tasting notes. Soy sauce, that's kind of a weirder one. We just released a new alcoholic flavor, which is called blueberry juniper. And the tasting note for
I just
that,
did that. Yeah.
yeah, the tasting note for that is Smarties. I don't know if you remember that
Oh
candy.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the easy way to sell it is like, hey, this has gin botanicals in it, and you'll get that gin on the nose from the juniper extract.
Yeah.
And then you'll get the blueberries in the mid body, and on the back end, you'll get a hint of vanilla from the oak tea concentrate that we put in there. Um, but the simple internal tasting note is it tastes like Smarties.
It's a Smartie.
That's all it is.
It's so great. It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're very short on time. I feel like I have 100 more questions for you, Sam. We'll probably have to have you back on someday to dig into some other topics. Before I let you go, I always ask this last question. What is your best piece of advice for young entrepreneurs?
I think humble yourself and give up control. I mean, uh, I definitely had a period where I was super, super confident. I'm like, okay, I can start something. And then having started something now, having started Walker Brothers, I am humbled, and I've had to get out of my own way so many times. And I think when you do that, there's really a lot more freedom to learn. And that's what this is all about. It's all about learning. So if you can get out of your own way and ask questions and delegate instead of trying to take complete ownership and do everything yourself, I think you're going to have a lot better of an experience the sooner you do that, and the sooner you give up control and say that you don't know everything, and that there's someone out there who can do what you're doing better than you. So why don't you hunt them down and ask them instead of trying to just outcompete them?
Yeah, I love that. Hey, it's time for our shout out of the week. This week's shout out goes to Steve Soderholm. He's a music business major, graduated 2012, and then founded Ranger Station. Ranger Station is a luxury fragrance company specializing in candles, body care, and personal fragrances. They create clean, sustainable, handmade products that are good for you and the environment. I have one of my favorites right here, their Immune Boost Bath Soak. It's so nice. We sell it at Where the Well Things Are here on campus. And if you want to learn more about Steve or his business, please check out rangerstation.co. Okay, a few rapid fire questions. What is your favorite kombucha flavor?
My favorite flavor is our citrus kombucha, which is grapefruit, lemon, lime, and apple mint.
Ooh, delicious.
It's very good. It's like an Arnold Palmer.
Ooh. What's your favorite honky tonk?
Favorite honky tonk beer is West Coast IPA.
Okay. Oh, I meant like down on Broadway.
Oh, sorry. I used to work at Honky Tonk Brewing Company, so I thought that was a deep cut.
Oh man, that would have been a great
That's
question
a nice deep
for me
cut.
to ask.
Okay, favorite honky
Okay, it's a
tonk
two-part
would
question
be,
then. There, you said part one. What's part two? Favorite on Broadway?
Roberts.
Boom, that's it. Best taco in Nashville.
Mas Tacos, fried avocado.
Ooh, it's so good.
It's the best. Yeah.
It's so good. East Coast or West Coast?
East Coast.
Yeah.
All day.
You're from the East Coast. I knew that'd be your answer. What are you most excited about this summer?
Some water activities. Some awesome water adventures. Every summer we try to do a lot of river floats and rent pontoon boats and take them out on the lake and have a lot of fun doing that.
It's so good.
Yeah.
With a little kombucha by your side.
Exactly. You got it.
There you go. Well, Sam, thank you for being on today. I know you got to run, but we are so grateful for your time today. I love your story. I know it's going to encourage a lot of our younger students and young entrepreneurs who are just getting started. You've done it in 3 years. You guys have just really accomplished so much. On behalf of all of Belmont, we're so proud of you guys. We can't wait to see where you take this. And we're so grateful that you're here in Nashville because we love drinking Walker Brothers and it's everywhere. So big congrats on everything you guys have done so far. And we can't wait to see what the future holds.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. Also, feel free, anyone who is listening, I am here as a resource. So you guys can, Elizabeth can give you my contact info. But for real, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always willing to answer any questions and help in any way I can.
Thanks for listening. What If is produced by Old Soul. For links and show notes, please visit belmontetp.com/whatif. Until next time, keep asking what if.